Yeah. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Sweep you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Sweep you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah, get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, and this art he's king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle, aka the hardest part of the ring. We got some TNA action for you today, or I guess just TN action. TNA for you. We got some No Surrender 2005 is the event we will be reviewing today. And if you are a new listener, by the way, or if you're a frequent listener and you just don't know about this because you don't listen to the end of my episodes, yeah, piece of garbage. But just kidding. But if you're a new listener or if you enjoy these kind of TNA reviews, feel free to visit apronbump.com. You'll find all my episodes there. You'll find all my social media, but you can also filter all my episodes to the promotion or to the era that you're interested in. In this case, you can go to apronbump.com, click on the episodes tab, select TNA, and that'll bring you to all of my TNA reviews that I have done thus far. Started at Victory Road 2004, their first 3-hour pay-per-view, and have reached the point of July 17th, 2005, where we're at with this episode. No Surrender 2005. Probably from all the shows I've watched, because this has got to be, the 10th episode or something that I've done on TNA. No Surrender 2005 might be the best show I've watched yet. For a variety of reasons. I mean, for one, there's no Jeff Jarrett on this card. I mean, he's not, but he's sprinkled throughout the show in various segments, so can't get away with no Jeff Jarrett on the show, but no Jeff Jarrett match on this show. And that might bring you to ask the question, well, if Jeff Jarrett's not on the card, who's main eventing for the title? Well, it's Raven versus Abyss in a dog collar match. Man, how fast things change. Only a few shows ago, we had Jeff Jarrett versus AJ Styles, and just a pure wrestling match. But now we got these two psychopaths choking each other with chains and putting each other through thumbtacks and tables, and it's a lot of insanity to close out the show. But otherwise, I mean, I say this is the best show I've seen so far with TNA because it's embracing what made TNA so great, and that's the X Division. Lots and lots of X Division on this show, but in meaningful, intentful ways. It's not just it's not just flips and flops for the sake of flips and flops. Like there's lots of unique stories and storyline structures that are going on, and the show just flows really well among anything else. The show, there's not a lot of dead space on this show. You can argue that maybe that's because Dusty Rhodes is gone. The director of authority, both the on-screen character and Dusty Rhodes, the booker, whatever his title was. Dusty Rhodes is out of here. So you see a changing of the guard in a way the show is structured, and even the way, matches, the individual matches themselves are structured. So, but in a positive way. So really good show here, but Of course, it's TNA, man. There's still so much to make fun of, but I mean, we get into the fall of Triton, we get into the rise of David Young, more fucking Voodoo Kin Mafia. I mean, I'm sorry, more Three Live Crew nonsense, handcuffs. Elix Skipper botching all over the place. There is a lot of silliness on this show, but it's all threaded along with good wrestling. And to help recap No Surrender '05, traveled all the way to the Philippines. Got Joseph Montecillo to come on the show. Awesome guest. Had such a fun time with Joseph. You can find him on Twitter at Joseph Weirdness. You can go to his YouTube, which I'll link in the description as well, Joseph Montecillo. And you can find his website, josephmontecillo.wordpress.com. All of that info in the description, like I said. Does a lot of great YouTube videos, video essays on both the past and present, and on a lot of unique content. Independent stuff like Ring of Honor, TNA, but also a big thing that he's doing right now is a 1990s All Japan retrospective where he kind of goes through that era, touches on some of the key matches, and does some other match reviews of all kinds of eras and all kinds of wrestlers. So go check him out. Lots of awesome content from Joseph. Does some articles on fanbite.com as well. Tons of stuff. Go to his website and check out all the stuff he's doing. Was a perfect guest to cover this era of wrestling, this alternative of the 2000s. So with that, let's get into it. TNA No Surrender 2005 with myself and Joseph Montecillo. But yeah, you said this, so they aired TNA in the Philippines. Were you watching during this time in 2005?
No. I started watching wrestling at around 2006. So I wouldn't have seen it in 05. And in 06, of course, that was mostly just WWE, Raw, SmackDown, all those pay-per-views. But I'm pretty sure they were airing TNA locally on a channel called Star World. And I definitely would have seen the ads and stuff around that time. So I'm pretty sure I knew it existed, even if I wasn't watching it.
That's great. Yeah, because TNA in 2005, it almost feels like they're still like an indie promotion at some times.
Sure.
But it's cool that they have such a reach that, they're obviously in Orlando, Florida, but there's, like Jeff Jarrett would go and defend his title in Japan and stuff like that. I guess it's the NWA title, so it has a lot of cachet to it, but that's cool that it's spread all around the world, at least at this point, or even at this point.
Yeah, it's actually kind of wild that we got TNA at all. Like, I don't even know if we get AEW right now. So
really?
That TNA had that reach is kind of crazy.
Man.
I don't have cable right now. Like, I disconnected since I watch everything online. But
Same here.
Maybe someone who's a Filipino is listening right now can tell me whether they're airing Dynamite locally. But I honestly don't think they are.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess Mikey Batts is better than Kenny Omega, is what you're telling me.
There's some Filipino out there in the world who has like some buried memories of Mikey Batts and has no idea who it is.
They're all
That's
buried.
just statistically true.
Yeah. Man. But yeah, man, No Surrender 2005. So you were able to catch a show?
Yes. Yeah, I saw the whole thing. Really good show, actually.
I agree. I really enjoyed it because because I'm watching all these shows chronologically. I started at Victory Road in 2004 and I've worked my way through. But even, all the pay-per-views I've watched so far, this is probably towards the top as far as quality. It was just a really good show from start to finish, I thought.
This is like peak TNA. Like, this is really when they're kind of firing off on all cylinders and things haven't gotten too silly yet. They still have a lot of goodwill from a lot of fans because they're bringing in all these people. Like, they had kind of that perfect mix you want for a TV company where you kind of have that crop of really promising athletic young guys and then a mix of those like really recognizable names at the top. So it was just kind of the stars lining up for them.
Yeah, I agree. They're really revving up at this point, and it's interesting. Dusty Rhodes just left like a month before this, and you can really tell, like if you watch one show and then the next, because the way for the stars that are utilized for one are different. Because no longer are we getting Kevin Nash and DDP in the main event. We got Raven and Abyss, who are both. Even Raven is fairly young at this point. Abyss is a new guy. He's like 5 years into the business or something like that. And then you got all the X Division stuff, like all throughout the show. You had like several like high profile X Division matches, which ultimately is kind of what gives them that buzz and what gives them that cult following against the WWE is providing a product that WWE is not providing. You know, you can watch Rene Dupree over here, but we got fucking Chris Sabin versus Samoa Joe over here. So it's like, which do you want?
Man, I wonder which one prefers.
It's really tough, but you can't. I believe they are still, because TNA just lost their deal with Fox Sports Net, and they're airing their impacts on their website. So this is still before Spike. And I think once they go to Spike is really like when they start like going full, because that's when like Sting comes in, Christian comes in, Kurt Angle, all that stuff. But still, I agree. As far as just like wrestling, this is arguably peak TNA right here, what we're watching. But yeah, man, just right to the show. And I always say this, but man, TNA and their intro video packages are like better.
Oh, they're great.
They're so good, dude.
They're excellent.
Like I don't even know.
I don't know the exact guy, but I think they had someone working backstage who was who used to produce the hype videos in the Attitude Era or something like that. I think that's something I heard.
I think I heard that on like Eric Bischoff's podcast or something, but I believe you're right, and that would make sense because that's why they're so good. And even the voiceover, I always forget his name. The voiceover guy, talks like this guy.
Yeah, he's iconic. Honestly, like he's such a big part of the presentation.
Yeah.
I did a quick Google. Barry Scott.
Barry Scott, that's what it is.
Would be his name. Rest in peace.
Yes. But this intro package here, it's I don't know if it necessarily makes a lot of sense when you look into it, but it's basically like our future is born in the past. You have all this text on the screen, and then
the voiceover going backwards and stuff.
That was so great. Weird. It was like, I don't know what's going on, but I love what's happening in front of me right now.
Those hype packages that TNA used to put together in that kind of era of the company, they always suggested like such a scale, like everything was huge, epic, and major.
Yep.
Like they would cut the footage of the wrestlers together with like these just giant satellite dishes, like broadcasting the largest wrestling possible out to the world. It was crazy.
The whole universe is watching Alex Shelley wrestle. Like, do you think so? But yeah, the Alex Shelley is in our opening match. So we got a tag team match. Alex Shelley and Shane, not Michael Shane, Shane versus America's Most Wanted, the team of Chris Harris and James Storm. It was a fun little precursor to Beer Money versus Machine Guns here. I don't know if you're familiar with their rivalry, but man, they would spend years fighting each other.
That was around the time that I started watching TNA again.
Okay.
Like I was following a lot of TNA in like 2009, early 2010s.
Gotcha.
So
that's
I
a good
was
time to get
right in there with like peak Beer Money.
Yeah, that's another arguable era. That's like peak TNA. But yeah, this match here, it's kind of an opening match, kind of a random match. They're really building it as super kick versus super kick. So we have Michael Shane. Yeah. Let me ask you this. You a big Michael Shane fan?
Who?
That is the correct answer.
I'm not seeing a lot of Michael Shane. I'm sorry.
So I'm
sure someone has done a big Michael Shane deep dive. Will correct me.
Well,
there you go.
I don't know if you're aware, and I don't know if they even mentioned it in the show, which is surprising. But Michael Shane is the cousin of Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
And
that is literally
that's
the
only
only thing I know about him.
That's all anybody knows about him. Yeah, he's no longer Michael Shane. he's being built as just Shane, but then he eventually becomes Mike Bentley. So I guess they're trying to kind of separate him from that Shawn Michaels, I'm Shawn Michaels family kind of thing. But,
sure, that makes sense.
Ultimately, he's still doing the super kick and the elbow and looks like Shawn Michaels and walks like Shawn. Like, he's just mini Shawn Michaels at the end of the day. But yeah, they're building it as a super kick versus super kick. So you have Michael Shane versus James Storm's super kick. And that's really the only underlying story here, other than just kind of get these guys. America's Most Wanted is still a really hot act at this point in TNA, and Alex Shelley is fresh off of returning, so he's still pretty new to the audience. And man, Alex Shelley is so good, man.
You know what? You know what really stood out to me in this match is I was listening to Mike Tenay's commentary, and like 2 minutes into the match, he goes, Alex Shelley right now is 22 years old. And I was like, oh my God. Because this is 05 Alex Shelley. So he's already done a lot of stuff. Like 04 was huge for him in ROH.
Yeah.
He had Generation Next, you know. This would be 05, so he has stuff like the heel turn, the embassy, and it's like, what? At 22 to be this good? Like, this generation of guys is just crazy. The amount of talent that was going around at this time.
Yeah, that's a good. I didn't even think of all his ROH stuff that he had done before this. I mean, because TNA and ROH kind of had a fluid relationship at this point, which definitely benefited their product for sure. But yeah, you're exactly right. Alex Shelley has already done so much, and he still has so much to do after this. But yeah, this match, it's weirdly like a lot of fighting on the outside, which I didn't expect. James Storm does a stage dive onto Alex Shelley. They like fight towards the stage, and it's like, okay, James, I see you. Like that famous Kurt Angle spot. It was basically that, but cowboy style, I guess. I don't know.
It was fun. I was thinking they were gonna do like just a normal Southern tag with like an extended heat and stuff, but then they threw in the brawling on the outside, which was pretty fun. I liked how Tracy kind of got involved. I liked her little heel shenanigans. I thought it added a decent amount to it. It was a good choice to start the show with something this like really easy to watch, incredibly digestible, nice and quick.
Yeah, I agree. You into handcuffs at all? Anybody listening to this without watching the show's like, what the fuck did he just ask him?
What a question for a first conversation.
Well, it's not a date, no. No, but you brought up Tracy and all her heel shenanigans, so this prompts Chris Harris to pick her up and handcuff her to the ring post. Kinky, but then this doesn't stop her. So I was confused at Tracy's outfit, right? I was honestly very distracted by it the entire match, if I'm gonna be honest. But so she has like a white cut off hoodie and then a zebra print skirt, and then like heels. I don't know what you call these heels. They're like
platform.
Yeah, they look like they belong to like a schoolgirl like outfit, but they're like mixed in with other stuff. So it's like
that was always kind of her thing, was kind of the schoolgirl look, if I'm remembering correctly.
I guess that's what heel women were in this era. Am I correct?
I really cannot remember at all. But you know what? I do remember when she came out for this match. There was a spot early on when the brawling was kind of starting where one of AMW was kind of chasing her around the ring. And I saw that her heels were just like 2-3 inches off the ground. I was like, wow, that's really impressive that she could run in those. And I was like, damn, she's out there wearing platforms. And then later on, it actually paid off. So I thought that was a nice, just a subtle little thing to add to the match. I liked it.
I knew there had to be a reason that she had these big ass shoes on. So she's handcuffed to the ring post, but she takes her shoe off and throws it to Michael Shane, who hits Chris Harris with it for a 2 count. So Tracy tries again, takes her other shoe off, and throws it to him. But this time Harris ducks, hits him with a full Nelson slam. Alex Shelley tags in, kind of flips over Michael Shane as he jumps into the ring. But he runs right into a super kick from James Storm, and that gives AMW the win. But then Michael Shane super kicks James Storm and then just runs away. So they both hit their super kicks, everybody. We wrapped it up nicely.
Gotta keep them both hot. Gotta protect the super kick at all costs.
Dude, you couldn't do this storyline nowadays because
I'm waiting for the inevitable Shane versus Generation Me match.
ooh.
Like, you know what? Thinking about it, that sounds like something Impact might try to pull for like a random Slammiversary in 2022 or something.
100%.
They're always pulling for one of those kind of weird nostalgia pairings.
I'm telling you, nobody but me and you are gonna know who Michael Shane is if they bring him out.
Big money Michael Shane.
Who?
Drawing the pay-per-views, man.
The Heartbreak Man, Michael Shane. What's up? But yeah, like you said, digestible match, easy. Got the crowd hot, and that's really all you can ask for in an opening match. But then afterwards, they cut to a segment that I guess happened before the show, in the pre-show or something, where Mike Tenay and Jeff Jarrett are going back and forth in the ring on the mic. Jeff Jarrett is he's perturbed. He's angry because I don't know if you noticed, but he's not on the card, which is it's crazy in this era for Jeff Jarrett to not be on the card. And Jeff is basically suggesting that TNA has kind of been a revolving door, and that he thinks that people coming in are going to make people leave, because we've seen like Jeff Hardy came in and he left, and you have Scott Hall came in and he left, and people like that. You got Samoa Joe coming in, he didn't leave, but you have new people coming in very constantly in this era. So he's mad because it's a big rumor that Rhino is going to debut on this show.
I wonder if Rhino's gonna be in the building.
I wonder.
Damn.
And I
What a
didn't.
mystery.
All the gore signs all over the Impact zone. It's like, wait, I guess Rhino comes on the show. I didn't know, but he's basically asking where Rhino is. Jeff Jarrett is, and then Mike Tenay is like, he's in the building. So they're basically just building to an eventual Rhino debut here, which comes into play later, folks. But then they cut backstage to Shane Douglas, who was interviewing Team Canada, and they're just being Canadian, I guess I'll describe the segment. You big Team Canada fan? I know they're probably like a little before your time in watching TNA.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't have too much love for them just because I've not really seen their stuff. I think they're all generally all right, though. Like, everyone who was in the team were people I would have enjoyed watching at the time, especially in this kind of spot where they're just kind of like a mid-card heel team. I think that was a really good place for them to kind of shine, especially with like a stable gimmick. You know, it works. It gets them on TV, gives them space to work with each other in tag settings where you can like kind of hide your flaws if there are any. It's good stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're just a solid heel team. I think that's always a good thing to have. I don't know if you guys in the Philippines hate Canadians as much as Americans apparently do. I don't know. I've never like gotten worked up about a Canadian in my life. But...
Absolutely not. Everyone's here is trying to immigrate to either the States or Canada, so we're just in love with it. Completely.
Yeah. Makes sense. But then Jeff Jarrett interrupts, suggests that because there's a lot of TNA originals in this group, so he's like, hey guys, we gotta stick together because people are gonna come into this company and replace us. And I think they eventually form like a big faction later down the line, but pretty much planting seeds for that. But next match, we have a Super X Cup qualification match. So this is your kind of the X Division scramble type of match that you would typically see on these pay-per-views. So it's gonna be an 8-man tournament eventually, and the winner will get a title match at Sacrifice. The numbers don't lie. And so we got Elix Skipper versus Shark Boy versus Sanjay Dutt versus Mikey Batts. And apparently, so thus far, Mikey Batts has just been the guy. He's just like a white guy that they add in. He's pretty undescript. Not a lot of he bumps really well, but he's had no character at this point. But I guess they're kind of giving him a little something. He comes out with like almost like a Gold Dust like suit with a sleeveless Gold Dust or Dustin Rhodes, I guess, like suit with a jacket. He seems like he's acting like a heel. But I've been watching all the Impacts leading up to this, and I really don't remember seeing him. Maybe it was like on one of their Explosion or one of those shows, but
maybe.
But that's what Mikey Batts is at right now.
I'm looking at my notes for this match, and literally all I have for Mikey Bats is this. Literally, the only mention of him I have on these notes is Bats a little fumbly. Not the smoothest guy working the X Division style. They really wanted that kind of incredibly smooth, fast-paced work rate match, and Bats definitely stood out in this particular group of guys.
Really? Yeah. But not in a good... I was actually going to ask you that, who stuck out to you, but it was just a negative.
Not in a good way. Sorry, Mikey Bats.
But you said he was fumbly. But man, I think this match might have been the end of Elix Skipper here. Because I'm just guessing, because he had that crazy spot that everybody knows where he walked the cage, did that Hurricane Rana onto James Storm. And he's kind of been playing off that. He has a move that he does where he sets somebody up in the corner and he walks from the other corner, walks the rope and does the Rana on the guy. But he botches that badly in this match. Like, it looked brutal, the spot. He landed on the apron, like back, neck first. And then he botched like a few other things too.
That tightrope Hurricane Rana, I know the one you're talking about. It was really bad, and I think what makes it worse for that particular spot is, in my head, all I'm thinking of is, oh my god, what if this had been the cage?
Yes.
And like that just kept running through my mind, and it's like someone could have died if he had botched that in that moment. So it was definitely a moment that stood out for negative reasons as well.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this match, it's actually like not as hectic as I imagined it was. It was actually very smooth, even though we're kind of talking about all these botches. But for the most part, it flowed pretty smoothly, I thought, because you basically have two people in the ring and you got to tag out. So the constant, people would hit, go one-on-one, and then they would somebody would take a bump and then go and tag somebody. I thought that flowed really well. But eventually, Elix Skipper hits his finisher. Do you remember what it was called? Like the Emerald Flosion move? It's not the play of the day.
I do not.
It's whatever it is.
I remember at all.
White noise, we'll call it. But he hits it onto Mikey Bats, and then Shark Boy does the Dead Sea Drop onto Elix Skipper. But Elix Skipper, he blocks it, but he still sells it. I don't know if you caught this, but it didn't look like it connected it. He held onto the ropes because it's like a flipping stunner off the turnbuckle, right? But he blocks it. It doesn't connect at all. But Elix Skipper falls to the outside like he just got shot out of a cannon. But then Sanjay, who capitalizes on Mikey Bats being knocked out, he hits a Hindu press onto Mikey, which is basically like a Phoenix splash. Lands knee first onto Mikey's face.
Watching it, I was like, oh my god, what was that? I thought he stomped dude right in the face. And I was saying to myself, man, I don't remember Sanjay being that insane. And then when they called it the Hindu press, it was like, oh, okay, he just messed it up. He landed wrong.
Right. Okay. Dude, I see, because Amazing Red does a similar move, especially in this era, and it's the same thing. It's always really hectic looking, and it almost always misses. But it's when it lands, I guess. Sanjay hits the Hindu press and gets the win and moves on to the tournament. I love seeing Sanjay get the win here. It seems like he was always kind of not quite at the top, but he was always a really reliable guy in the X Division. But yeah, like I said, this match pretty much showcased what made TNA unique at this point.
For sure. And we bring up a lot of those kind of off moments, but it is a good match at the end of the day. You mentioned that it used the ROH tag style of the four-way. Yeah. And that's just a great stipulation in my mind. It really keeps things moving. There's a little bit of psychology that goes behind it. Early on, Sanjay didn't want to tag anyone in. He was just trying to get the win. And I think it's just something that TNA used to do really well, is just set up these X Division guys for success.
Yeah, for sure. And they were always a main focal point of all the pay-per-views and all the builds. They did a good job at making it not feel like a mid-card title. It just felt like its own separate thing. But we're backstage here. More Shane Douglas, because I knew you needed more of them. He's interviewing R-Truth and Conan, 2 members of 3 Live Crew. Their third member, BG James, Road Dogg, is there's a bit of a hostility within this group, which has been going on for God knows how long at this point.
Yeah, they were showing a few recaps and hype videos, and I was like, man, I was imagining just multi-month DX drama in TNA 05. That's wild.
That's
a choice.
I mean, look, you got the New Age Outlaws. Maybe they still got some. You can wring some water out of them a little, because you have the Outlaw debuting a few months ago. I think it's a match later in the show, but he's now Kip James, and but yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get there. Yeah,
hold your load for that one. We'll get to that one, but because we gotta talk about some Apollo and Sonny Siaki in this next match. It's a tag match. You have those 2 gentlemen versus the team of David Young and Simon Diamond. Before we get into this match, I gotta ask you, are you a big Triton fan?
I can't say that I am, no. Sorry. No.
I'm gonna ask everybody until somebody knows who Triton is. Because so Triton debuted, right? He's this big. Don't bother Wikipediaing him, because I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell you his entire wiki right here.
For sure.
So he debuts at, I believe it was Destination X back in March of 2005, and he's this big jacked up dude with a weirdly tiny head. So he's just tall, he's big, and that's all he's got to him. He's got kind of like an Undertaker-esque gimmick to him, where he like will disappear.
Okay.
But he had one match against Monty Brown at that pay-per-view, and it was the shits. So that was basically the end of Triton. They threw him, and I bring it up because they threw him in a tag team with Simon Diamond. So it's basically like Simon Diamond was his wrangler of sorts. Like, you know, Triton stood in the background. They tagged for a few weeks on Impact, but apparently, like right before this pay-per-view, they released Triton. I guess his contract came to an end or something, and they're like, hey, we got other big guys. You have a tiny head. Why don't you just get out of here? So I'm paraphrasing what they probably said, but it's probably pretty close to that.
In comes David Young.
Who better to replace Triton, am I right? Who better to replace
Absolutely.
a 7-foot jacked up dude than a guy that looks like Create a Wrestler #1?
Default.
Yeah. Just a bald guy, moderately built. Looks like the toughest guy at a barbecue, David Young.
Sure.
But his whole gimmick, David Young's, is that he loses all the time. So, like, he never wins. He's on like a two-year losing streak or something. So the premise here is that Simon Diamond is here to untap that potential that David Young has.
I hope it goes well.
Well, let me tell you this. Simon tells us that David can bench 400 pounds. So that means he's going to win this wrestling match, I guess. When he's like the third most jacked guy in this match when there's 4 people in there. So it's like,
and it's, they put Simon on the mic to open this match.
Yeah.
And like one of the first things out of his match is, my partner has not won a match. And it's like, is that what you want to be telling us, Simon? Right at the start of your big match? I don't think that's kind of the messaging you want to get across right now.
Well, hey, but that's only because he hasn't had the leadership that Simon Diamond can provide, you see.
The brains of the organization.
It's Diamonds in the Rough is apparently, I guess he's building a faction, maybe. Or maybe it's just going to be David Young. I hope it is. But the match gets underway. Not a lot to it. I mean, David Young almost Hayabusas himself at the beginning with a moonsault to the outside. And this part made me laugh. So Don West, they're talking about Apollo and Sonny Siaki, which, for anybody listening who isn't aware of these two, basically think of The Rock ×2. And Don West is basically going off on how, Apollo is just the pure power guy, like just a big, strong dude. But Sonny Siaki has all the athleticism. And then right on cue, as he's saying this, Apollo just dives does a front flip plancha over the rope and lands on everybody, lands on his feet. So
I love it.
Don West is like, oh, let me tell you something, Professor. Apollo. Yes, no, he's a big bumbling idiot.
Oh my god.
Don West deals. And then Apollo just Cirque du Soleil's over the ropes very smoothly.
I love that.
Dances his way on out there.
I love when commentary has just no idea what is going on, like what's meant to be happening. You know, there was a really similar situation just today. Like, I was watching some of SmackDown from earlier today, and there's a great moment where Finn Balor is in the opener with Sami Zayn, and Pat McAfee goes, Finn Balor, he's just made his return to SmackDown. He might be dealing with some ring rust. And then Michael Cole just comes in and is like, well, actually, he's been competing at an extremely high level at NXT. And it's like, whoa, we just completely forgot there was another show. But yeah, that's another great example of commentary just not kind of knowing what's going on in the ring.
But it gives it a sense of realism, I guess, in a way. But what did you think of the commentary throughout this show? I've always loved the combination of Don West and Mike Tenay.
I absolutely adore this commentary team, honestly. They're one of my favorite pairings ever. I think Don West, you know, he used to get a lot of flack, but I loved the sincerity that he brought. I loved the excitability he brought, which you kind of needed because Tenay's a little dry, a little matter-of-fact about things. So I thought they complemented each other pretty much perfectly.
Agreed. No, Mike Tenay, I mean, they called him the professor because he knew so much. And he really added a lot to even like mid-card who gives a fuck matches like this. He would work really hard to like kind of lay out the backstory of each person, why this match matters. And then Don West,
I always kind of appreciated that about TNA is that, especially with this commentary team, they really always had their working boots on, trying to make everything meaningful, making the most of what they had. So Tenay and West, for me, that's always a plus on any show they're on. For
sure. And like you said, I remember Don West getting a lot of hate, like on the message boards or whatever back. But like I'm watching these shows back, and it's like, man, Don West rules, man. Like he's
great. Yeah. Honestly, like, you know, a lot of people like to talk about commentators today who have like a sense of enthusiasm and joy to them. And honestly, I feel like they're all kind of paling in comparison to Don West. Like that was a guy who was fully in it at every moment.
Yeah, for sure. But this match here, like I said, not too much to it. Towards the end, everyone's hitting their finishers. Apollo hits David Young with a beautiful sky high. David Young then Apollo hits it on Simon Diamond. David Young hits Sonny Siaki with a spine buster. But he's not the legal man. David Young isn't, so he can't get the pin here. So Apollo just grabs David Young and gives him a TKO for the win. So the tan jacked up dudes get the win. I guess it's their team name. Yeah, anything else on this match?
I thought it was pretty easily the worst match on the show for me. But even saying that, I thought it was fine. Yeah. You know, it didn't take up too much space. They told a quick little story with some, you know, pretty traditional tag heat segment stuff, which is fine on its own. And then they got out of there. So, you know, perfectly fine tag team match to just, you know, a little break on the show. Why not? Yeah, for sure. And like past pay-per-views I've watched, you would get this caliber of match, but it would last like 15 minutes. So that's a good point that, you know, they didn't stay too long. They did what they had to do and they got out. Which is probably not a great thing for those guys. Like, you didn't do it too long. Thank you. Sonny's like, you know, we can't all be the best in the world. You know, someone's got to fill out the card.
Look, you gotta settle the crowd down for what's gonna happen next. Chris Sabin versus Samoa Joe.
Oh man.
So you said that last match was the worst on the card, which I might agree. But this match I think might have been my match of the night right here.
You know, that's fair. That is fair. It's a good pick.
Yeah, Joe is still fresh off of his debut in TNA. This is only his second pay-per-view match. In the beginning, you have Joe dominating with all of his greatest hits. You have all his sentons and his enziguris. And they're basically playing off the fact that Samoa Joe has the size advantage and Chris Sabin basically kind of grasps this And all of his offense, especially at least in the beginning, is all relying on his quickness. So we see a lot of springboard moves from Chris Sabin. He has a crazy springboard drop kick because Joe is like, hitting the ropes and he comes back and he has all that momentum. And then Sabin just gets shot out of a cannon, just kicks Joe out of the ring. Great intensity from Chris Sabin all throughout this match. He hits another drop kick to the outside off the apron. They get back in the ring. Sabin goes for a cradle shock, but he can't get Joe up. But he does this a few times. He keeps going for it, but Joe is just too big. Joe counters with a brutal German suplex. There's a great spot here where Joe hits that classic Samoa Joe spot where he power bombs Sabin. Sabin kicks out, but then Joe transitions into the STF. And I thought this made me think the match was going to end just because of how like in the middle of the ring it was and how dire. Like Joe had all of his body weight on Sabin. I was like, there's no way Sabin is going to work his way to the ropes. But it's like a minute or two of, Sabin crawling, Joe transitioning submission moves. Like he goes from the STF to the crossface, then into like this Rings of Saturn type of move. But Sabin eventually pivots his hips, gets his feet on the ropes. Joe goes for a muscle buster in the corner, but Sabin slips out and gives him a crazy running powerbomb into the middle of the ring. Like
that was wild. I was shocked that Sabin could actually do that. That was crazy.
Yeah, because Joe's on the second rope, so you're thinking, Sabin just gonna take him and just drop him, but he takes him and sprints and just jumps.
Just a full-on Liger bomb. Just wow. It was truly spectacular. It's one of the best spots in the match.
Yeah, for sure. And then Sabin has all this adrenaline behind him. He finally gets Joe up for the cradle shock, but Joe fights out. But Sabin then enziguris Joe, and then he goes to the top rope, but Joe kicks his feet out from under him, hits the muscle buster, brutal looking, and locks in the coquina clutch. Sabin passes out. Samoa Joe gets the win, and yeah, like I said, this match ruled. I love it.
It's the best wrestler in the world in 2005. Basically being told, show off with an incredibly capable opponent, and it's great. Joe's presentation in 05 in TNA was just pitch perfect.
Yeah.
Just this killer coming in to the X division, which was populated by guys who were mostly like half his size, and he just went in and murdered them all. It was fantastic. That's just booking 101. I think we were talking about commentary again. There's such a great line at the end where after Sabin's passed out, Joe keeps the coquina clutch on, and someone on commentary just yells, "Get him off of there before he kills him."
Yeah.
And it really put over the kind of threat that they wanted Joe to be in this division, where, he had this power and then he hit so hard, but when he grabs that coquina clutch on you, it's lights out, and it could even potentially be career threatening. Just everything about Joe in this time period in TNA is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And they build up this coquina clutch because nobody's gotten out of it at this point. So that's a very good point. That's another layer to the whole thing. And Samoa Joe comes out. What made this match so great is that Samoa Joe comes out as, the dominant guy, but by far. He comes out looking like a monster, unbeatable force. But Chris Sabin also looks really good in this match, and because he's going to be a constant threat in the X division for years to come. And then obviously we got Motor City Machine Guns not too far in the future. So I thought both guys came out of this match looking really good.
Sabin was like hurling himself.
He was so smooth too, Chris Sabin.
Just full on. And you mentioned like the little stories they were telling in the match, like the constant attempts to get the cradle shock. Can Sabin hit it? It's such a great example, this match, of how much you can do in like relatively short amount of time. Like this couldn't have gone more than 13, 15 minutes, maybe even less. And they told these little stories, they got over everything they wanted, and they did like crazy stuff. And that's just kind of the level that we were expecting from some of the best stuff in TNA at this time. And to think that all this stuff Joe is doing in TNA at this time isn't even like the ceiling of what he
Right.
was doing in this year, insane. Just one of the greatest peaks in wrestling ever.
Dude, it's crazy that this is like still his prologue for Samoa Joe. This is still his introduction to the company. Like,
Absolutely. Like, this match is just, it's just setting up Joe. Like, they clearly structured it to be, this isn't really about Chris Sabin. We're gonna make Joe look like a killer. And it's so excellent. Like, the things that he and Sabin did here, it's wild.
yeah. But man, how do you follow that with Lance Hoyt? Are you a Hoyt-a-maniac?
You know, I can't say that I am, but I'll give them this. Their hype video did a good job of kind of putting it over, like creating this aura around a Lance Hoyt, and I thought he was fine in this match. But
Yeah, I mean, say what you want about Lance Hoyt, but he's still going strong today. The new IWGP US champion, Lance Hoyt, which is
it's still his Twitter name.
Is it really?
It is still
amazing.
at Lance Hoyt. So
I love it.
anytime AEW has to like put him over on social media on Twitter, they have to say new IWGP US Heavyweight Champion at Lance Hoyt. He hasn't changed it the whole time. It's been over a decade.
Hey, I think we're gonna see Lance Hoyt come back one day. I'm still holding on hope. If they can, use all the TNA music and stuff, I'm convinced they can use the Lance Hoyt name. Even bring back his music. Yeah. Fuck it. Give him the beanie. It's so 2005. His presentation, I love it. But we got a 6-man tag here. So we got Lance Hoyt and the Naturals versus Team Canada. So Team Canada here is Bobby Roode, Eric Young, and A1. Ooh. So, God.
One of those things does not belong in that combination.
Man, TNA did not have a lot of luck in finding capable big men. Because we talked about Triton earlier. Now we got A1 here bumbling around like an idiot. But at least you got Bobby Roode and Eric Young to kind of be his foundation. So you brought
just hold things down.
You brought it up earlier. They got this whole faction, so you can hide people's weaknesses, which is very true. It's very true here. But this match gets underway. So the story here, just because I want you to embrace what's going on. So Lance Hoyt took out Scott D'Amore in the previous pay-per-view, who was the manager of Team Canada. Gave him a choke slam, ripped his shirt off, gave him a moonsault, and I guess sent him to the hospital with that moonsault. He hasn't been on TV since. It was over a month ago. So Team Canada's still reeling from it and is trying to push forward without Scott D'Amore. And on the other side of the coin, you have the Naturals, who are have a new manager in Jimmy Hart, which is kind of random, but I'm with it. And that comes into play in this match. So the match gets underway. It's kind of back and forth in the beginning. The baby faces come out hot. Chase Stevens does a moonsault to the outside onto the Canadians. Lance Hoyt does a suicide dive on everybody. But eventually we get the old Eddie Guerrero spot here. So Bobby Roode grabs the hockey stick wrapped in a Canadian flag. Oh, fuck, man.
Did you know they're from Canada, by the way? These 3 guys, if you weren't aware, they're from Canada. They're Canadian.
Dude, this is like, I don't know, the 7th the 7th or 8th TNA pay-per-view in succession that I've covered, and they bring out this goddamn hockey stick wrapped in a Canadian flag every match. And at no point is anybody like, hey fellas, maybe this idea is kind of stupid. Yeah, maybe we could just have a hockey stick or something. They get we're Canadian. We have the music. We have the red tights.
You know what? Canadian is like genuinely a gimmick.
Yeah.
You know what? It's true. Let me tell you, there is. There was. I think he's kind of semi-retired now. There was a local independent wrestler here in the Philippines named, I'll get to his name later, but anyway, he had Canadian blood. I'm not sure if he was born in Canada and moved here or something, but he had Canadian blood in it.
TJP?
So, No.
Batista?
But
That's all I got.
I wish we had Batista here. That would have ruled.
Yeah.
But so his whole thing, they really wanted to emphasize his Canadian heritage. So he used to come out with like a hockey mask and stuff and like
Heat.
a hockey jersey. And I think his theme song was literally just the Canadian national anthem or something.
That's great.
But so here's the best part. His name, his ring name, right? Zayden Trudeau.
Ooh. Boo! I can see it now.
But everyone loved him because he could do like a 450, and only
that's all
like
you
3 guys locally could do a 450. It was wild.
It's great.
Crazy.
Oh man, the things that get you over.
Team Canada lives on
They do.
in the Philippine independent scene.
Unfortunately. So Bobby Roode grabs this hockey stick, and he's about to hit Chase Stevens with it, but the referee's about to turn around. So Bobby Roode throws the stick at Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart grabs it, and the ref sees that Jimmy Hart has this Canadian flag hockey stick, and he's like, "Hey, Jimmy Hart, why are you gonna hit this guy with this Canadian flag hockey stick?" So the ref kicks him out, and Jimmy Hart's like, wow, baby. And so he just gets out of there. So the spiritual advisor for the Naturals, as they call him, is gone from this match. So they have lost that element of it. So the Canadians take control from that point on. Hoyt eventually gets the hot tag. The crowd loves Lance Hoyt, man. We could joke about it all we want, but the crowd was into Hoyt for whatever reason.
Sure. That was real. Hoyt-a-mainia. It was running wild.
Hoyt-a-mainia. God. But Lance Hoyt eventually tags out. He clotheslines himself and A1 over the top rope. And this allows Bobby Roode. Jimmy Hart, man, look, this veteran in the business, rookie mistake here. He leaves his megaphone ringside, which allows Bobby Roode to grab it, and he lays out both the Naturals with it, smashes him in the face. This allows Eric Young to pin Chase Stevens for the win. Canadians win. Blame Canada.
Well, there you go. And you know what? It's still a good match. Like, it moves at a pretty decent pace. I like the heel stuff. I like them getting Jimmy Hart ejected. And I thought, we already had Samoa Joe killing dudes before this, so why not have just a chill 6-man tag? Why not? Like, it fit right. It was perfectly placed in the card.
Yeah, you can only have so much murder in one show, I guess. That's a good point. But that being said, we have a no disqualification street fight up next.
Oh, the violence.
Oh, the
carnage.
The humanity. Oh, it's just put the kids to bed, everybody. This is they can't witness this. So we have Kip James and Monty Brown. So newly Kip James. He's no longer the outlaw, which they were calling him before this, which is maybe they realize, hey, maybe that's stupid. So they're calling him Kip James here. And basically the premise here is that, and they have like a little backstage interview before the match. And Kip is like, me and BG James, who is Road Dogg, we went up and down the roads together, and I loved all of his family. Bullet Bob Armstrong even once called me like his son. So I'ma take your last name, thanks. So because he can't just go by Kip Sop, because nobody's gonna be threatened by Kip Sop. So Kip James is his new name. Monty Brown is his tag team partner. And they're facing off against 3 Live Crew, the team of Conan and Ron Killings. Still looking for BG James, so that's kind of like an underlying thing. You brought up the package, like the pre-match package earlier. I gotta say, this has got to be one of the most ADD editing jobs I've ever seen.
It was wild. Like a million things were happening in this video.
Did you, as somebody who's coming in like cold, did it tell you the story of what's going on here?
All I got really was that, Kip has come in and it's kind of playing on BG's loyalties. It's basically which side is BG on. Mm-hmm. And that was like just the main narrative thread that I got. But there was so much in that video package. I remember it. Just flashing, lots of cuts. It was pretty incoherent at points.
Dude, the audio drove me crazy because you had like music, and like commentary playing at the same time at like different levels, and you had to like constantly switching, and then every once in a while you would see the letters truth appear on the screen with R-Truth. Like, anybody listening to this, if you watch one thing from this show, watch the pre-match video package for this match, because it is all inspiring. You have, BG James, Kip James, Monty Brown, you have, oh my God, and Truth, and it's just like...
He needs to bring that back. R-Truth needs to bring back hype videos that just flash his name.
Flash his name for no reason.
Yep.
But we're here now, and the match happens. This match is kind of a mess.
Mm-hmm. To put it kindly.
Yeah, you have cooking sheets, steel chairs. There's one spot that made me laugh out loud, where Conan has his cooking sheet. He's about to hit Kip with it, but Kip grabs the referee, Slick Johnson, pulls him in front of him, and Conan just batters him in the face.
So good.
Oh.
So good.
Dude.
The best part of this whole match is that there are 2 instances of referee violence. Just like the referees had their working boots on in this match more than Kip James did.
That is a fact. That is 100% fact. But not a lot to. Everybody's bleeding for this match. It's like, okay, it's like a 5-minute match. It feels like, but Monty Brown ends up hitting a wicked pounce onto Ron Killings, and that gives them the win. But the story here isn't really the match. It's basically what happens after. It's kind of what they're building towards, because BG James finally comes out towards the end of the match. He doesn't play into the finish, but he kind of comes out to observe everything. And Kip James, after they win, Kip James grabs the mic, and he does the old, I got 2 words for ya thing. But it's not suck it, it's my brother. And he points at, did you like that? Did that tickle your fancy when he said that?
Oh, man.
TNA
05, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Kip James.
Man, that is it's got everything, unfortunately. But
that's one way to say it. I've never heard it like that. That's good.
I'm picturing Barry Scott say that, by the way. You have the most athletic athletes in the world. And the outlaw.
The worst part is that the hype video gave me the impression that this was taking up just hours of TV time every week. Wow. To be a fan of Impact in 2005.
It took a lot of patience, maybe, I don't know, but you had so Kip is like, my brother, and he points to BG. So he asks BG James to come into the ring with him. Ron Killings is still laid out. So Kip grabs a chair, hands it to BG James, and tells him, hey, you're with me now. Hit your partner with this chair. he has it, he's thinking about it, but then he just slams the chair down and walks out. This is all virtually identical to what happened at the last pay-per-view. So we've gotten like 0 evolution in this storyline, but it's like 30 minutes worth of video packages to tell us what's happening. So it's like,
hey,
man,
the money's in the chase. The money's in the chase. Whose side is he on? We don't know. Gotta tune into Impact.
Man, this storyline is chasing me and I'm running away from it, so that's the only chase I see here. But yeah, they're really dragging out this storyline, but eventually they pair up. They become a VKM. You have any fond VKM story or memories?
You know, I have a fond memory of my cousin telling me about VKM. He used to watch a bit more wrestling than me back in the day. And he was trying to sell me on TNA something. They're doing this crazy thing where the old guys in DX are calling out Shawn and Triple H. Oh, it's so revolutionary. They're calling out the guys in the other company. Oh, man. VK, and that was part of his selling point is
it's subtle, right?
It's so silly where he was like, hey, you know why they're called VKM, right? I was like and I was like 10 at this. I was like, Why? It's Vince K. McMahon. That's genius!
Oh man, the layers. It's like an onion. Oh man, I gotta take it all in.
It's so subtle, so bold. Love it.
Dude,
You know,
the funniest part is that it really never amounts to anything other than what you just mentioned. They kind of just mentioned their names on TV. But ultimately,
they're shooting, brother.
Ugh.
They're shooting.
Are they? Man, I can't wait till I get to that point and I get to hear like Don West and Mike Tenay like batter us over the head with, oh, you know what, VKM, I think it stands for something else, Professor.
Oh, I'm excited. That's great.
All right, I'll bring you back on for that. Don't worry. But anything else on that street fight there? I think we kind of covered it.
No, it was pretty much fine. I liked the referees bumping, and there's
Yeah.
a nice little detail later that I can bring up to that.
Yeah. But this next match here was weirdly like the match I was probably looking most forward to. Because it's AJ Styles versus Sean Waltman with a special guest referee, Jerry Lynn. So,
Of course, this is AJ Styles versus Sean Waltman, or as the crowd in the Impact Zone calls him, X-Pac. They were not clued in about who owns certain trademarks.
there was both an X-Pac chant and a 1, 2, 3 kid chant during this match. So
That's right. There
Sean
was.
Waltman was the third name that they wanted to call him. But so I'm assuming you're not too familiar with Sean Waltman's TNA run here in 2005.
Not overly, no.
I'm gonna tell you this because at this point in TNA, you had a lot of veterans coming in. You had a lot of, for lack of a better term, WWE guys, WCW guys. Like I said, you had Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and DDP coming in.
Kings of Wrestling.
Oh, they dressed up like
The
Elvis.
real Kings of Wrestling.
Look, I'm trying to put that out of my memory, so I would prefer you just never bring that up again, if you could. Thanks.
Imagine, though, if we had those three against, like, Claudio and Hero. for the KOW name.
It could still happen. I could see that in AEW. Book it. TK, book it, if you're listening.
Put the money down.
But, no, I bring that up because Sean Waltman is like a diamond in the rough when it comes to that, because he's working his ass off in this era. Like, he's in shape. He's he's built like 1, 2, 3 kid. Like he's in good shape. He's moving around really well, and he seems motivated. Because I do a timeline on like early 2000s WWF, and I've seen X-Pac and X Factor, and then like afterwards it's like in the Invasion, like as like cruiserweight champion, and he seems so defeated at that point. But I'm seeing him here a few years later, and he has like a pep in his step. He's getting to phase guys like AJ Styles, so I can't really blame him. But I'm loving Sean Waltman's run in TNA here. I think because he had a match against Raven at the last pay-per-view that was really good. Really consistent dude, as he was throughout his entire career, I guess. But commentary is doing a great job here at explaining the history between all these guys, because Jerry Lynn has faced both these guys in his career, and he's teamed with both guys. I think he was even tag team champions with AJ in the early TNA days. And but the story here is that there was a King of the Mountain match at Slammiversary, which both X-Pac and AJ were involved in, and X-Pac basically cost AJ the title there by turning on him. They were facing each other, but they were kind of like formed an alliance, but then X-Pac kind of turned his back on him. So that's kind of like the thread here. But as far as the match goes, I love the story that they're telling, where like AJ is using his pure athleticism and his youth, but X-Pac has the cunning, he has the veteran kind of abilities, and that's kind of in the beginning. You have AJ hit like his massive drop kick, and then he flips over the ropes to the outside on X-Pac. But then X-Pac is, he uses Jerry Lynn to flip out of an armbar. He's rolling out of the ring for timeouts. He atomic drops AJ dick first into the ring post. So it's like different styles, pardon the pun, but
And
like
that bit you mentioned where he kind of uses Lynn to get the leverage to flip out of the arm lock. Usually, I'm not a huge fan of spots where the wrestler will use a referee for leverage, because it just it always kind of takes me out of it. It looks a little too unrealistic for my taste. But I really liked it here because of how much importance they were putting on Jerry Lynn as the special guest referee, his history with both guys, like Shane Douglas in the pre-match interview was kind of stirring the pot, kind of like, oh, who's going to be your favorite here? And I liked Waltman kind of like pushing those boundaries by putting his hands on him early.
Yeah, no, I agree, because it's like, oh, this is my buddy Jerry. He's going to help me. So, hey, come here and help me. But Jerry Lynn's like, what? I was just standing here. But then later in the match, man, I love this spot. So Waltman goes for the Bronco Buster. But
Good.
Dude, this is so smooth. So AJ pops up, tosses him in the air, catches him in a Styles Clash position. But Sean just fights out of it, kicks AJ in the face to get out of it, knocks AJ in the corner, and hits probably the meanest looking Bronco Buster I've ever seen.
It's so good. Like, honestly, just how much they were able to get out of a Bronco Buster teaser. Like, to think that they got a sequence out of that. And of course it's AJ Styles. He's an insane athlete. Like, the things that man is able to do, it's ridiculous. And this is 05 when he's probably at his most athletic. Crazy.
Yeah, amazing. I think Waltman goes to the top rope because AJ's on the outside. There's a somersault onto AJ, busts open AJ's nose, so we got more blood here. But then AJ, I brought up that atomic drop into the ring post earlier. AJ does the same thing to X-Pac here, so kind of a turnaround's fair play kind of deal here. Back in the ring, AJ goes for a suplex, but Sean Waltman lands on his feet and gives him like a mule kick to the balls, followed by a Northern Lights suplex for a 2 count. I like how they're, because, Sean Waltman's he's not a mic guy, right? He's not like a character guy, but he's doing things in ring, physicality wise, that kind of make him the heel, that kind of reinforce that he's the heel in this match, which is just so good. Like, very subtle. Subtle might be the wrong word, but he's very smooth with it. Seamless. AJ eventually gets X-Pac in a backslide, transitions into a Styles Clash, hits it
with a double underhook first too.
Ooh.
Like, he deadlifts Waltman up with the double underhook into the Styles Clash. Like,
yeah.
How dare he be that good? Honestly.
Honestly.
The audacity of AJ Styles to be such an athlete in 2005. Crazy.
God.
The things he was doing.
It's offensive how smooth he was. But he hits it, only for a 2 count, though, which is great. You don't see a lot of kickouts of the Styles Clash in this era. So he can't beat him with the Styles Clash, AJ. So what does he do? He goes to the top rope and goes for the spiral tap, but misses. And X-Pac hits the X Factor for a 2 count. So this is another occurrence of kind of 2 generations, 2 different mentalities. So, because when AJ hit his finisher and it didn't win, he just went for a bigger move. But X-Pac hits his finisher, doesn't win. So what does he do? Well, he just goes outside and grabs a chair. He grabs a chair, wraps it around AJ's leg, goes to the top rope like he's going to crush his leg. But Jerry Lynn steps in. He's like, hey, don't do this. This is a normal match. We're not going to have any of this hullabaloo in this match. So Jerry Lynn takes the chair off of AJ's leg, throws it to the outside. And X-Pac's pissed. He's like, come on, man. Remember, 15 years ago or whatever when we were together? So as all this is happening, Pac and Lynn are going back and forth. AJ tries to roll up X-Pac, but X-Pac grabs the rope to prevent it. But then Jerry Lynn kicks X-Pac's hands off the rope, which allows AJ to roll up X-Pac once again into the Styles Clash position, hits it for the 2nd time, gives him the win. So AJ Styles gets the win here with kind of an assist from Jerry Lynn. But man, this match ruled. I loved it.
Surprisingly, this was my match of the night. I was kind of expecting it to be Joe Sabin, but this one really kind of caught me off guard that Sean Waltman was doing stuff like this at this kind of later stage in his career. You're absolutely right. I thought he did so much to kind of ground himself as a heel. He wasn't like slowing down or anything. He didn't like put AJ in a headlock for 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but he was doing small things to kind of put over that he's kind of this wily veteran. He's in a sea of younger, quicker, better talent, and he's gonna take any chance he has to kind of find an advantage, and he pays for it. He completely eats shit for it. And it's just simple, kind of classical wrestling logic done brilliantly by two guys from two different generations.
Yeah, exactly, because you have that great storytelling element from Sean Waltman, the veteran, mixed in with the modern flair of AJ Styles. Like we mentioned, all the crazy ways he got into the Styles Clash, the spiral tap, all that stuff. So I thought it was a great blend of styles, whatever. But yeah, as I'm talking, I think I might actually agree with you. This might be my match of the night as well. It's definitely, you know, it's 1 and 2 definitely between this and the Sabin Joe match, but great stuff there. But after that, we have the X Division Championship on the line. Christopher Daniels, the champion, defending against Petey Williams. So kind of a weird dynamic here, two heels going one-on-one against each other, but I think they made it work pretty well. Yeah, did anything in particular stick out in this match to you?
Yeah, Petey slingshotting himself over the top rope and hitting a Hurricane Rana. Like I know this is the X Division and we're kind of conditioned to want like big action, you know, flashy spots, but even that one caught me off guard. Like, whoa, that is a bit more than I was expecting. That was extremely great. There was a small detail that mentioned that was brought up here where Mike Tenay again and Don West, gotta love them. They bring up that if you check your formats and your programs, this is not the referee we had scheduled for this match because two of them got knocked out.
Oh, I was wondering. I was sitting here like, hold on a tick. Didn't we just see this referee?
Just a second. This is not who I paid for to see referee this match. But yeah, I thought that was just a nice little touch to make everything in the company kind of just come together, make it feel cohesive as a show.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good match. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Not nearly as much as the other two, but it's good.
It's crazy when these two are going one-on-one and it's not even like a highlight. I mean, it's like you said, a really good match. I think the heel-face dynamic kind of took away from it a little bit because the crowd didn't really know who to cheer and who to boo. But I think they did a good job at kind of like going back and forth between heat spots. Like both of them kind of got one, which sounds weird on paper, but they made it work for sure. You brought up that Hurricane Rana spot that Petey Williams does. It's weird. That's like almost just like a commonplace spot for him in this era, but it's amazing nonetheless. He goes for it a second time, but Daniels catches him and hits a brutal-looking powerbomb onto the apron. They're in the ring, kind of going back and forth, like I said, and then Samoa Joe comes out to observe. He doesn't really factor into the match at all, but he's just kind of there in the background, basically foreshadowing that he's just going to take the title off of whoever wins this match, basically. He's in the tournament, technically. I don't know if he wins. I don't remember who wins the tournament, but I know Samoa Joe becomes X Division champion very soon. We're kind of dipping our toes into that Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels kind of era of the X Division, which is arguably the greatest era of TNA. But towards the end, so Daniels goes for the BME, but before he can walk over to the turnbuckle, Petey picks his ankle and locks in the sharpshooter. Daniels gets to the ropes, but Petey picks him up and goes for the Canadian Destroyer, but Daniels blocks it. Daniels then goes for the Angel's Wings, but Petey Williams sprawls out of it, so they're kind of... They've clearly scouted each other. Both have been main fixtures of the X Division for a long time, so they're clearly playing on, hey, I know what your weapons are, and I'm going to counter them. And I thought the finish was kind of fun. It was kind of... It felt kind of WCW in some ways, but it's like, I liked it. So towards the end, A1, who's out there with Petey, he distracts the referee, and while he's doing this, he hands Petey Williams a chain to hit Daniels with, presumptively. But in the other corner, on the other side of the ring, Daniels already has a chain wrapped around his fist, and Petey turns around and gets clocked with it, and then Daniels hits one of the most beautiful BMEs I've ever seen in my life, lands it perfectly, and Daniels gets the win, retains his title. And, I brought up the weird heel-heel dynamic, but I think that played into the finish really well, because he had both guys kind of being shady in opposite corners, but Daniels was able to be a little quicker on the draw here.
Yeah, it was a good match. I didn't think they had the most kind of natural chemistry. There were a few moments where they were doing the more kind of quick-paced, kind of fluid sequences, and they weren't quite on the same page the whole time. But I did think they did something really good here. I kind of felt bad for Petey Williams. Sort of the whole narrative kind of keywords they were going into this were, is Petey Williams a one-trick pony? Kind of, is it just the Canadian Destroyer that creates his success? And they kept kind of trying to put over that, Petey Williams has these different tools in his arsenal, but he doesn't win at the end, so nothing's really proven. But that's just a small thing for me, honestly. I don't think it did Petey any favors, but they put on a good match here.
Yeah, I would agree. I think because Petey, unfortunately, he kind of falls under that like Sanjay Dutt kind of tier where he's like constantly involved, but he's not. He was X Division champion in earlier months and years, but from this point forward, especially with Samoa Joe coming in, you have AJ Styles coming back in the X Division at some point, and then you have other people coming in and out. Petey he's always there, like I said. He does the whole Scott Steiner thing later, which is one of my favorite parts of his career. But
yes.
And you're exactly right. They're kind of really hyping up the fact that he's a one-trick pony, or at least Daniels is. Don West does a good job at being like, he does other stuff, suplexes, sharpshooter. But yeah. So I think both guys, they worked really hard in this match, and I enjoyed it. But after that, we have our main event. The NWA World Heavyweight Title is on the line. In a dog collar match, Raven, the champion, versus Abyss, accompanied by James Mitchell, who is newly his manager, which that's like all I remember of Abyss is him being managed by James Mitchell. But there was a point where he was just kind of like a loose, like off his chain kind of monster. But James Mitchell's so good, such a good manager for Abyss. I thought this pairing was perfectly. What about you?
We were talking earlier about kind of hype videos, and one of my favorite things about this hype video, where we're putting it over Raven versus Abyss, this clash of kind of two kind of more crazed hardcore guys, and like half the video is about whatever Jeff Jarrett's doing.
What?
Half of this like 3-4 minute video, it was just Jeff Jarrett going, "I'm getting my title back."
He's gonna find a way. I'm getting my baby back. But I didn't bring up every segment, but basically throughout the entire show, Jeff Jarrett's running around backstage, asking everybody where Rhino is. Hey, I got my guitar. I'm looking for Rhino. I got the welcoming committee ready for him. But then
he said that, yeah. He said, "I'm the welcoming committee." Oh my god, he was like shouting at Zbyszko.
Larry Zbyszko's back there, just Hawaiian shirt, doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know what company he's in. But I'm gonna tell you, we could beat up on it, but there's a swerve at the end that I did not see coming, and I think that's all like how it was laid out earlier in the show. So I'll give him credit for that. Credit where credit's due. But like you said, they had Jeff Jarrett intertwined in the pre-match package, so it's basically. Well, actually, I guess he didn't really factor into the match. So I guess I was about to say, like, he's going to get involved in the match of some sort, but he did not. So maybe joke's on me, I guess.
I actually thought, I was actually kind of surprised because, they spend the whole pay-per-view hyping up, where's Rhino? And you're kind of thinking, well, this is the last match, he's probably going to get involved. And the fact that, we get a pretty clean finish at the end of this without too much chicanery, I thought that was actually a nice way to kind of set things up and then lead into the angle later on.
Yeah, this is a weird period because when I think of TNA, and the NWA World Title. I think of Jeff Jarrett, and like Sting and Kurt Angle and Christian, even guys like DDP, you got a title shot early. I can think of like these wrestlers, but this is this weird era where it's like deathmatch NWA title match. Yeah, like the hardcore guys, Raven, Abyss, Rhino gets involved later. Kind of like a lost era almost of TNA. But so yeah, we got a dog collar match. So of course they both have the dog collars on with this chain in between them, and they're building it up as a no surrender match. So there's no submissions and nobody can throw in the towel. Which I like. The pay-per-view's called No Surrender. Like, okay, I get it.
Might as well.
That's fun, I guess. But man, lots of chaos in this match. Like right off the bat. So like Raven gets kicked in the face by Abyss, gets knocked out of the ring. So Raven just goes berserk, just starts tossing a shit ton of chairs into the ring. Every chair he can find, he's throwing it in there. He's like throwing it at Abyss, so Abyss has to like dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge away from these chairs. But as Abyss is like dodging these chairs, I think I blinked and missed it. I don't know if you caught it. Raven, like a chair gets set up in the corner.
I think actually Abyss had set it up.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, he
okay.
was trying to get Raven through it.
Gotcha. Okay, so I was wondering, like, when did that happen? And I didn't bother rewinding because Impact Plus is a shitty ass app. So if I tried to rewind, I would have to like put in my credit card information and all that, So, but the chair is set up in the corner, and they do all the spots you do in chain strap match kind of deals where you pull the chain and like Abyss went face first into the chair. They did that a few times in this match where like they'd be on opposite corners of the ring post and somebody would pull the chain, and then their opponent would go into the ring post and stuff like that, which I liked. Towards the beginning, Raven pulls out a table, sets it up ringside, which comes into play later, but they don't go through it at this point. Abyss, man, this spot looked brutal. So Raven is prone in the ring. Abyss puts a chair on top of Raven, goes to the second rope, and hits a splash onto Raven. Just nailed it like flush. Looked really good. Abyss then stacks all these chairs. It's like 9 or 10 chairs in the ring. Puts Raven on top of the chairs. And then Abyss goes to the second rope and goes for a leg drop, but that goes to the well one too many times, I guess. And then Raven misses. Raven gets out of the way, and Abyss lands ass first on these chairs. What else would you do after that than pull out a staple gun? Oof. So he has a staple gun, Raven does, and I think it's like a dollar bill that he has or something. Mm-hmm. And he staples it to Abyss's face, or his mask, I guess. Which, when I saw it, I was like, man, he stapled that right to his face. But I think it was just on his mask, no?
Yeah, it's a nice little trick.
Yeah, because Mike Tenay's like, no more. I don't want to hear anybody say that these staple guns aren't loaded, which I've said that before when I've reviewed these shows. I was like, oh, there's probably no staples in there.
They are absolutely loaded. Like,
yeah.
These guys would totally take that spot. Like, no questions asked.
Yeah, for sure. Both guys are bleeding. It's brutal. They fight to the stage area. Abyss and James Mitchell set up 3 tables. So you have 2 tables next to each other, and then you have 1 table kind of perpendicular to those next to the ramp. So Abyss goes to choke slam Raven through these 2 tables off the stage to the floor, but Raven counters and knocks Abyss off the stage through the tables. But I like this spot here because you have Abyss laid out through these tables, but they're still chained to each other, remember? So Abyss grabs the chain, and from the floor, he's knocked out, but he pulls the chain, which rips Raven off the stage and sends him through the other table that's set up, which is like something I didn't see coming at all. But it's like, I love the psychology there.
It's so good. Like, Raven has done his fair share of dog collar matches in his life.
Oh, yeah.
So he's sort of a pro of mixing in those little bits of added psychology that can only come with a match like this. Mm-hmm. And I like that he's able to space it out. He's able to include these little moments of cleverness to kind of balance out with these huge, big, hardcore set pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. They get back to the ring eventually. Raven hits the Raven Effect DDT or Even Flow, Raven Effect, whatever he's calling it at this point, for a 2 count on Abyss, which causes Raven to go to a different level, and he wraps the chain around the neck of Abyss and hangs him over the top rope with it. Ooh, I guess that's... You have a dog collar match. I guess you have to do that spot at some point.
Yep. It's kind of you can't not. Like, the opportunity's there. You might as well.
Looked brutal. But as Abyss is hanging from this chain, James Mitchell gets involved and just canes the shit out of Raven with his little, not a Singapore cane, just like a cane that you would walk on. Cracks it over his back, lays out Raven. But at this point, Abyss just kind of takes the dog collar off, which I feel like in this kind of match, you shouldn't be able to just like unsnap it and go about your way.
I think the kayfabe there is, what is this referee gonna tell Abyss stop?
I guess. Yeah.
Who's gonna tell him not to do that? But yeah, it is definitely noticeable.
Yeah, for sure. But Abyss, as per any Abyss match, grabs a bag of thumbtacks, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're like gimmick thumbtacks or what it is. But in TNA, when I see it, it always looks so aesthetically pleasing when he lays it out. Like, it's like one solid piece, like one solid bed of thumbtacks.
Yeah. I think it's how he lays it out. A lot of guys kind of tip it over and let it fall, but Abyss will lay it on the mat and kind of pull the bag out so it kind of comes out in that one whole piece you mentioned. So it's really just a small flare of presentation.
He's treating the thumbtacks with love. Like, do you watch SpongeBob at all?
Yes.
Do you know the episode where this is the second episode in a row where I've referenced SpongeBob, but SpongeBob, he's like building a Krabby Patty and he like puts the pickles on the patty and then lays the cheese over it and tells them that's how I picture Abyss laying out the thumbtacks. But
and another thing I noticed with the thumbtacks is again we come back to the brilliance of Mike Tenay and Don West, the only announced team in wrestling history to know that it's thumbtacks inside the bag. We don't get any of this. By God, King, what must be in that bag? He's gonna hit him with a sandbag. It's sand in that bag. Oh, it's thumbtacks. The humanity.
Yeah.
Tenay and Wes are like, oh my God, it's a bag of thumbtacks. He's gonna bring out the thumbtacks. It's like,
all right,
yes.
We've seen this gimmick before. Lay it out.
Thank you. You watch your own show. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. They're like not treating the audience like they're idiots. Like,
yeah, it's like, yeah, we've seen you do this. That's obviously thumbtacks. We know what's going on.
Yeah, but nowadays, it's like such a thing. Sometimes it'll be like Lego blocks or dildos or whatever AEW is doing over there. But so Abyss, so he lays out the thumbtacks and then he rips Raven's shirt off, which is a little bit of psychology that I like because he wants Raven to get the full brunt of these thumbtacks into his skin. So Abyss tries to superplex Raven off the top rope into these tacks. But then Cassidy Riley comes out. I guess the newest member of Raven's flock. Cassidy Riley, he's been in these like X Division matches, scramble matches before. He's just kind of like an enhancement guy, for lack of a better term. But I guess he's now a part of Raven's faction here. And you know this because he comes out wearing the black shirt and Daisy Dukes and all that. But Abyss just takes Cassidy Riley and choke slams him over the top rope through that table that was set up in the beginning of the match. So Cassidy comes and he goes. But this allows Raven to kind of recover because when Abyss goes back to the corner for the superplex through the tacks, Raven slips out and powerbombs him through the thumbtacks, but only for a 2 count, amazingly. And Raven eventually he goes for the Raven effect, but Abyss counters into the Black Hole Slam for a 2 count, which is another case where I noticed that in this show. There's a lot more like false finishes off of finishers than you would typically see in this era. I don't know if that's like somebody new was booking or whatever it was. But ultimately, Abyss picks Raven back up, but Raven hits the Raven effect DDT onto the thumbtacks, and this gives Raven the win. Retains the NWA World Title in a brutal match. There's post-match shenanigans here, but as far as the match itself, what did you think of it?
I thought it was really good. Just a nice hardcore spot show. It's given a little more depth with kind of the little things that Raven kind of brings to these matches. You can tell that he has so much experience in them that he knows how to get the most out of it. Everyone's looking motivated. They're playing to their strengths. It doesn't go 45 minutes. Just all good things. And the right guy wins. It's a strong match. Like, I'm not gonna say that everyone should go out of their way to see it, but I can't imagine people watching this pay-per-view in 05 were upset with this match. Perfectly great way to end a pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. You had all the chain match kind of tropes, but they were done very well. And plus, the Abyss kind of stuff. And I thought, their characters blended well, and this match type made sense. The right guy went over. And then it's building to something else. So after the match, Raven's celebrating. And the show is about to go off the air, and I bet you're thinking this as you're watching this. You're like, man, this show needed more Jeff Jarrett.
Just a touch. Just a little bit more Jarrett.
A little double J never hurt anybody. So Jarrett comes out with his guitar, looks at Raven, and he's basically like, I'm coming for that title. So he starts walking towards the ring, gets on the apron, looks at Raven, and he's like, hey, Raven, I got some advice. Turn around. Raven turns around and gets gored by Rhino. Whew. So Rhino apparently is in cahoots with old Double J here. Swerve, bro. But like I said, they set this up like Jarrett was gonna, meet Rhino and they're gonna scuffle at some point. But apparently they're together. And, we joke about TNA and how goofy it could be sometimes, but I didn't see this coming. First time watching this show.
Yeah, I haven't seen the week-to-week impacts from 05. I just watched this show, and the way it was building up, I thought, Jarrett's gonna come out. There's maybe during the title match, and Rhino's gonna make the big save. And I genuinely did not see it coming that Rhino was on Jeff Jarrett's side. So, and this didn't take up too much time. I didn't feel like it overshadowed what Abyss and Raven did. And it's not like it was completely out of nowhere. Obviously, it was a big thread throughout the show. So I thought it was a really strong way to end the show. You had a good, bloody main event for the world title. You have your new hot guy coming in, who's a fairly big name, at least in this time. It's a good way to end the show.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, there wasn't a lot of dead space in this show, is one thing I'll say. There wasn't, it was an efficient use of time. Nothing stayed too long that didn't need to. But yeah, man, that brings the show to a close. No Surrender 05. Yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle.
No, absolutely thumbs up. TNA at its best had a really good knack for putting shows together that felt well structured, that flowed easily, that you could just sit down and watch. And I think this is like a prime example of what they were doing at their best. And this isn't even like, I'm sure they've had better shows than this, more famous shows with better matches. But the fact that you could just pick this show out from 2005, just sit through it all 3 hours, it kind of breezes by. Nothing drags. There's never a point where you're thinking, oh, this is taking a turn for the absolute worst. I wish more shows these days were kind of patterned that way, honestly. Like, I feel like if AEW were structuring their big pay-per-views a little more like this, they might have much, much better shows instead of trying to stack everything up on a 4-hour pay-per-view card. Everything gets 20 minutes, you know. Yeah, I think that's a kind of a lost art. And TNA in 2005 were incredibly strong at knowing how to pace a show.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, maybe Lance Hoyt can eventually let AEW know how to pace their shows.
Just gotta pass on that knowledge from 05.
Hoyt-a-mainia lives on, I guess.
The living legacy of TNA.
Yeah, it's a legacy. It's a legacy. But yeah, man. Yeah, Joseph, thank you once again for coming on. Really great time covering the show with you. Where can everybody find you and listen to what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. You can check me out on my YouTube channel. That's Joseph Montecillo. I do a bunch of video essays about wrestling of the past and the present. Right now, my big projects are, of course, Walking the King's Road. I talk about the famous All Japan matches from the 1990s, and I'm also doing a 1990s retrospective that is underway. I just finished 91, so more of that to come soon. You can find me on Twitter at Joseph Weirdness if you want to hear all the different things I'm saying. And I do random match reviews on my blog. That's josephmontecillo.wordpress.com. And recently, I have been writing some freelance articles for fanbyte.com, so you can check that out there as well.
Nice. Yeah, I wanted to get you on because I saw you did like a lot of kind of unique stuff that not everybody does, like you said, Japan kind of stuff. And I think you do some like old school Ring of Honor content on your channel as well.
I love old school Ring of Honor. I think that's part of kind of the attraction that I had when you kind of let me pick a show to watch and you had TNA 05. I was like, okay, 05 is just such a great year in wrestling in general, and you have a show with Samoa Joe, AJ Styles on the card. That's promised quality.
So good. But I also do a timeline of Ring of Honor, and where I'm at now is like end of 2002. So if you're up for it, I'd definitely love to have you back on for maybe like a late 2002, early 2003 show for Ring of Honor.
For sure. I think 03 is kind of when they start really taking off. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with ROH in general. But 03, they kind of start becoming the company that everyone really talks about and knows to this day.
I watched it from 2006 and on, but everything before that I kind of have like a loose knowledge of. But I've covered most of 2002 at this point, and they're definitely like building up to what they would eventually. They're still like in the basketball court, the Murphy Rec Center. Yeah. But you see, I'm at the point where like CM Punk and Samoa Joe are just getting there, and man, talk about dog collar matches. Don't Punk and Raven have one in Ring of Honor at some point?
Yep, that'll be around late 03. I think that's probably Raven's. I'd say it's his most famous dog collar match. It's a really strong one, and when you do get to it, you kind of see the other ways he'll kind of incorporate dog collar psychology for that particular storyline. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait. Well, I'll tell you what. Every time I have a dog collar match on a card, I'll bring you back on. You'll be the expert.
Just the niche expert on this one stipulation.
But yeah, man, I'll let you enjoy whatever time it's. 10 p.m. over there, right?
Yep, almost 11. But I had a good time. Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for coming on. Once again, thank you to Joseph Montecillo for joining me on this episode. Such a fudging good time. Try not to curse as much. Such a gosh darn great time talking about some old school TNA. Go check out Joseph. Go check him out at Joseph Weirdness on Twitter. Check his website out at josephmontecillo.wordpress.com. And check out his YouTube channel. Most importantly, that's where at least I became familiar with him. Does a lots of long form great content on there. Some stuff you're not going to see from anybody else on the 1990s. Lots of Japan content, independent wrestling content. Has a great video about Daniel Bryan and why he's the greatest wrestler ever. Awesome stuff there. Go check him out. And check out why don't you check out me too, huh? While you're at it. Check out apronbump.com for all of my episodes. As I mentioned out front, if you are into these TNA reviews and you would like to listen to some more or watch some more, go to apronbump.com. go to the episodes tab, click TNA, and that'll bring you to all of my TNA reviews thus far. Check me out on YouTube as well. Give me a subscribe over there. Starting to really push forward with the video content on there. Give me a subscribe. Give this video a like. Give all my videos a like. I mean, they're all fucking great. So what are you going to do? Give it a downvote? Come on, man. And yeah, I think that is all Daddy has for you today. So I'm going to make like Triton and disappear. I didn't have anything funnier this time. I'm sorry. Thank you. Lots of great episodes coming up in the next few weeks. Got some Ring of Honor, got some Progress, got some ECW, got a lot of Philadelphia bingo halls coming up in the next few weeks, so, or London bingo halls, but lots of great episodes coming up. So give me a subscribe. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a thing. Thank you guys so much for listening. I love you all. I'm hard.
Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud.